are if you're from Virginia or Texas going on. And we've got stuff going on tonight in families of people that we love and relatives. And so I thought maybe we'd just say a prayer and give that all to the Lord. Can we do that?
Yeah.
The Lord be with you.
And
also with you.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we hear the voice of your Son who says, "Come, follow me." And that's why we're here. As we gather, I'm so excited to have every person in this room and those that cannot be with us physically but are praying and thinking about us tonight. We remember those who need your healing power in body, mind, or spirit. We're sending our love, our support, and our solidarity with every single one of them tonight. Surgeries, treatments, recoveries. Lord, we pray for this pilgrimage, that we would know you better, walk with you, and enjoy your presence in a deeper and a beautiful way. Thank you for this time and this gathering. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Okay. Well, welcome and good evening. I wanted to start by saying thank you to two extraordinary people. One is Kathy Bellamy, who has already rendered me psychological support in a number of different moments. And Kathy, I want to say thank you very, very much. She is one of the calmest people in the room. I also want to say, and everybody see Kathy back there? Kathy, wave your hand. If you don't,
Oh
Kathy
yeah,
Bellamy.
we're getting the
Kathy
close-up.
Power, Kathy, wave your hand. Kathy and Kathy have agreed to help me conduct our pilgrimage along with the good people of Biblical Resources and Hananiah Pinto, our guides. So anyway, we have some staff coming on the trip. We have leaders coming on the trip. But basically our team is, I'm your leader, Hananiah Pinto, who we'll get to, our guide, and then our logistical and psychological and moral support, Kathy and Happy. They might be the last ones on the bus. So if you see the back of them, that's the wrong place to be. We'll get more about the bus later. Tonight, I just wanted to start. My experience of pilgrimage is we take a trip about 3 times. Once before we go, the actual trip, and then what God has in store for us when we come back. So these meetings are designed to get you ready for a pilgrimage. And they're going to be a little different every time, which is why, thank you Margie, filming them and putting them on our YouTube, okay? I would prefer to have this not go out on your social media, because I'm going to say something that will upset somebody somewhere. But for those of us on the trip, this is totally for you. Has anybody been on a pilgrimage before? Okay, and Happy? All right. So for the noobs, let's deep dive for just a moment. A pilgrimage is not tourism. We might act touristic.
Sorry.
If you like to buy tchotchkes, you're about to enter what we call the kingdom of heaven. Pilgrimage is not adventure travel, although it can get kind of adventurous. You don't have to act spiritual. You can spot them a mile away. Ugh, awful. We like you fresh and honest and authentic. That's really recommended. Transparency, that's up to you. A pilgrimage is something different. The Latin word means to travel on a journey to a holy place. Peregrinus is the ancient Latin word. A pilgrimage combines all of what's ancient and wonderful about human activity. It is essential. What do humans do? We look over there and we say, we want to go somewhere else. All the people that say, I hate the beach, I'm moving to the mountains. And then the people in the mountains say, I hate the mountains, I'm moving to the beach. Now, if you've noticed, but it's like a 6th grade dance in the valley. If one person moves to Coral Reef, everyone's going to go to Coral Reef within a year, like guaranteed. Anybody remember when Beaver Creek discovered the World, the cruise ship that goes around the world called the World? Half of Beaver Creek just emptied. Because everybody, once their friend went, everybody wants to go on the world. So this is just human activity. We like to move around. We're going to go halfway around the world, roughly, just to make sure everyone knows where we're headed. We're going to investigate. We're going to see and touch, and feel and hear and look. Tasting's up to you, but we're going to really encounter. It's going to be full-on experiential. This is a wonderful opportunity. How many people have been to Israel? Oh, that's great. Okay, all right, wonderful. How many people have been to a holy site around the world? Holy site. Name me one good holy site that you've visited. Notre Dame?
Yeah.
Okay. The Vatican? Yep, okay.
Blue Mosque.
The Blue Mosque in Istanbul, right?
I read it, yeah.
Somebody else? Ober Ammergau, okay. Now, no one said Edinburgh yet. Or Stonehenge, or Machu Picchu, all that.
Where's
Isn't it
Karen
funny
Baird?
that,
She
every
has.
place is great, but they're just
Right, Happy?
It seems to be human. Some places are maybe just sometimes a little bit more fascinating than other places. I've heard people say I'm traveling, I don't ignore anybody's particular ox here, I'm traveling to Fargo. I've never heard anybody say, I'm making a pilgrimage. You know? So there seems to be places that just draw people. And friends, we're going to one of those places. Christian, Jew, Muslim, any student of the Middle East, any student of politics, religion, culture, art, food, music, archaeology, history. This is where it all goes. Jerusalem is called by the rabbis the navel of the world. And I completely agree. Even Scottish, I agree. That Jerusalem is where it all has gone down and it might go down in the future. Think about biblical characters who took pilgrimages. Or, let me challenge you to think about one that did. How about Abraham and Sarah? Did they travel?
Oh,
Yeah, only across the Fertile Crescent. Isaac, their son? Yeah, that's right. Adam and Eve? Yes. Moses? Yeah, Joshua? Okay, right. Let's see, who else do I have on my list? The whole Israelite nation? Yeah, only 40 years. And by the way, even though the bus will feel like that in week 2, it's not 40 years. David? King
Yeah.
David? Elijah?
Yep.
Okay. The Apostle Paul?
Yes.
Almost every apostle that you've ever heard of. They traveled towards their faith, to preserve their faith, to find their faith. This is the essence of pilgrimage. Our action point is the 4th century. Now, you don't get a priest that had a social life in seminary. You get a leader that was captivated by this part of the world. So I'm a little geeky when it comes to this stuff. All these books that you see around us are mine. For instance, so with no social life, this is what you get. So I want you to be informed as a pilgrim. The 4th century is where all the action is, because you know in 325 at the Council of Nicaea, Christianity was not only legalized, but Constantine used it as the glue to cement his new empire, a sweeping empire that crossed 3 continents. And he chose a single place to elevate, to unite the western and eastern sides of the Roman Empire, and the place he chose is Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
He consciously chose 3 caves. He asked his mother to go help him out, because every good emperor, when he needs help, he calls his mom. So Constantine, the superpower emperor of the world, calls his mother, Helena, and Helena goes to Israel, to Jerusalem, and she picks 3 places: the birthplace of Jesus, the place where Jesus died and was crucified, and she picks the place where Jesus ascended to heaven. And in those places, Constantine builds the most magnificent church structures that you can imagine. We're going to see them all. And he invites his empire to come to Jerusalem and confirm that this new faith that everybody is just discovering is actually true. The best way to confirm something is to come see it for yourself. And so this is how pilgrimage started in the 4th century. Now I want to tell you, this is how this tidewater little town that was raised by the Romans in 132 AD was reborn as the Holy Land. You will hear me refer mostly, unless I slip, to the area in which we are traveling as the Holy Land. You're going to find out really quickly that names in the Middle East are very important. Everything has about 15 names. And you will either offend or you will encourage the person you're talking to depending on the word that you use. Does everybody know that for some Episcopalians, Israel, the word, is an offensive word that they will not utter, and they're upset when I do it? Does anybody know that?
No.
Many Episcopalians, including a few in our church. There are other people, if I say the word Palestine, will get deeply offended that I would dare to refer to this historic area by a name that's a very ancient name called Palestine. Do you see? Every gate, every city, every church, most people have more than one name. So for me, as a priest on a pilgrimage, we're going to the Holy Land. Everybody good with that? That's a totally Anglican way to get out of that. Okay, actually that name was invented in the 4th century. There was great controversy. Can you imagine what the controversy was about pilgrimage? We've already had it in the church, actually, with this trip. Anybody name me some really good pilgrimage controversy? Oh, I'm sorry, controversy if you're English. Oh, come on.
What sites would we visit based on religion?
What sites would we visit and not visit? I've already had one person fall out based on the hotel choice because they're too Israeli and they're not Palestinian enough. So, okay. Everybody's got to be comfortable, right? So, this is really sensitive. Where we stay is a statement. They did it in the 4th century as well. How about this? Why can't everybody come? How come they get to go? I've had that conversation already. Why can't I go? Well, what's so special about over there? This is all in the 4th century, by the way. What's so special about over there? Isn't God inside of me? I experience God fully, God's presence manifest. There's one place better than another, not to God, who cares? I can go up on a mountain and go to Jerusalem. I can go up to this mountain and go to Jerusalem. I can hit a perfect tee shot at Eagle Springs, or just hit a shot at Eagle Springs and then tell everybody it was a perfect shot. And I can experience everything that you're going to experience when you drag your butt halfway around the world. These are controversies in the 4th century. One by one, some of the greatest minds and leaders in the Christian church said what I'm saying to you now. You don't have to go to Jerusalem to be a Christian. You don't. However, there's only one place that God chose to send Jesus to walk, talk, breathe, laugh, cry, eat, teach, live, and die, and be resurrected. And that's where we're going. And so, why not come and see, to quote Jesus. This was the discussion in the 4th century. So, anyway, they wanted to examine the evidence. They wanted to confirm their faith. They wanted to go see for themselves. They're all from Missouri, back in the 4th century. Show me. Just show me. In the midst of all of these great disputes, I'm going to introduce you to one of my favorite ladies. You're going to get to know her. There's going to be a lot of people you're going to meet on this trip. One is Egeria. She's a Spanish nun. She's a young woman that a convent in Spain sent on pilgrimage once Constantine opened the whole thing. And Egeria wrote back. She was so overcome. She wrote back to her community, if I can find it. She said, and I quote, where is it? Hold on just a second. Oh, I got you. She said, I get to see with my own eyes the hope that you sent me with here. A simple statement of faith from a young woman who was sent on pilgrimage. She wrote a journal, and the journal comprises one of the only voices we have about what it was like to go on Christian pilgrimage in the 4th century. I love Egeria. If you've ever worshipped in the Episcopal Church during Holy Week or Easter, you're worshiping straight out of Egeria's journal. She went to Jerusalem and recorded what she saw. When we rediscovered this, it's one of the reasons we have a new prayer book, 1979. It was because of this journal. Fantastic. Did you ever suffer in school through Chaucer's Canterbury Tales? What were they doing? Just to bring it, so just to comfort you before you get disturbed about the Middle East, we're going to go back to England so everybody gets comfortable. What were they doing? Canterbury Tales. Why did Chaucer write it? What were the characters doing? They were on pilgrimage to Canterbury. Everybody read John Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress? It's a fantastic spiritual allegory where the journey that the main character is taking is the spiritual life. Pilgrimage became a metaphor for the spiritual life. Has anybody heard of a little boat called the Mayflower? What did we call those poor, wretched Protestants that got kicked out of... Well, we kicked them out of England, by the way. The Anglican Church took care of that. They were kicked out of most every good Protestant country. They had nowhere else to go. What did we call them?
Pilgrims.
Did they have a journey? In the Islamic faith, it's mandatory to do one thing in your life before you die.
The Hajj.
The Hajj,
What's that?
which is the journey to Mecca. It is mandatory before you die. It is embedded in the essence of the Islamic faith. So, friends, we're not creating anything here. I would say my entire faith journey is a pilgrimage. I'm on the road. I never get to stay long in one place. Even though we've been physically veiled together a long time, you and I, spiritually not in the same place. We've been moving. I have a question for you that I'd like you to reflect on tonight. Why? Why? Why are you coming on this trip? See, pastors get to ask stuff like that. Because I think some of the preparation isn't just make sure you know where your passport is and do you have modest clothing and all of that. There is a question about why. it's really good to know why you take a trip before you go. Some trips we don't get a choice about, right? They happen to us. Not this one. You have a choice. You've invested time and money and a lot of energy to do this. And we want to honor that. So I'm just asking why. May I challenge you between now and the next time we meet to spend some time in reflection about why you're coming on this trip? Because that's going to help us give you the experience that you want. I can tell you, I meet God on the road. When I travel, I am more open, I am more available to the Holy Spirit often than I am when I'm going from Edwards to Vail, Vail to Avon, Avon to Edwards, Edwards to Eagle, back to Avon, back to Edwards. I'm more available. Are you when you travel? I have had more profound spiritual experiences on the road than at home. I'm coming to deepen my faith. I'm a tactile guy. I need to see it, touch it, hear it, think about it, sense it, smell it, taste it, touch it again. I'm the guy that's going to sneak down to the bottom of the Church of the Sepulchre and do a rubbing, which is explicitly against the rules. I'm that guy. I'm that guy that Kathy and Happy are going to go, where is he again? Oh my God, he's over there. You pull, you know, that I'm kind of that guy on the trip. I come close to God when I study. I like to be informed. You all set a very high bar of competence for your clergy here. We have to know stuff to hang out with you. Conversely, this time you may need to know some stuff to hang out with us. Pilgrims spend often their entire lives preparing for a trip. I want you to be as informed. Now, can you just show up to the airport and ask Happy and Kathy, like, what line? And step in line? Sure. You don't have to do anything. But may I suggest that would be a horrendous waste of this experience. So I'm challenging you, in a sense, to become educated and informed. This is a bottomless pit. You will never understand everything. That's not it. That's not it. We're not trying to be scholars. But there's an ancient phrase, faith seeking understanding. Not understanding seeking faith. So we're believers, we'll be believers when we go, we'll be believers when we come back. Most of us. Some of us, few of us are agnostic. We have at least one person that's not Christian coming on this trip, and we need to be sensitive about that. But for the majority of us, we're kind of faithful people. So I'm just challenging you. There's an invitation to go deeper, to learn things that you've never learned. Nothing worse. I want to say Texan, but somehow it feels awkward. Nothing worse in Jerusalem when you hear an American 30 yards out and they have no idea what they're saying. It's embarrassing. And I'm saying this with a Canadian. It is embarrassing. The first time I was ever embarrassed to be an American, I was in Jerusalem. I could not believe what people were saying. Have you ever been in that situation? Yeah, not us. No way. So a little depth of information, maybe a little invitation to learn some things that we didn't know before. I want to be a little challenged in my faith. I'm 54 years old. I want to take this trip. Actually, I'll be 55. I haven't been back for a long time to the Holy Land, and I've served you for 25 years. I want a little something different, just to kind of mix it up for me. Do you? This is a good way to do that. And I'm coming on the trip to spend time with you. I will raise the flag when I need time by myself. There'll be a really clear look that says, this is my evil twin, don't think about it. Okay? Let's be clear that priests cannot change the weather. I've been asked that here many years. Hey, could you do something about fill in the blank? And I'm like, yeah, no. Can I do something about your nuptial arrangement? Not like that. No. May I warn husbands and wives that pilgrimage is one of the few times that maybe you've been together 24 hours a day longer than you have since your honeymoon. We had a total meltdown on the trip I took in 1994 in the last 48 hours. And all the single people were having a ball. And all the married people melted right down. And I was young married, I didn't get it, maybe now I get it more, but you know what I mean. So I can't help with that. Spiritual crises, bring it on. I'm there for you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Wandering conversations about life. Hey, what's that rock? I'm all yours. Hospitality, which is the Anglican word for what's going on over there and what will go on almost every day. Hospitality, I'm totally there. But I'm really coming on this trip to be with you. And I know that there are people that I need to spend more time with that I haven't had a chance to. I know that there's at least one new friend I'm going to make in this group that I haven't had a chance to make yet. And I bet there's one new friend for you all too. Does everybody here know everybody in the room? No. Awesome. Great. Great. Okay. We're going to get to what it feels like to be on a bus again every day like you were back in middle school later. Yes, that person staring at you saying, please sit next to me, that's going to happen. And then you have a faith crisis about whether you want to do that. So, but anyway, we're going to spend a lot of time together, and I'm really looking forward to that. That's why I'm going. Why are you going? Would you be willing to spend some time and just reflect on that a bit? Does that make sense? This is the essence of pilgrimage. May I tell you, our pilgrimage is going to be congregational and communal. We are basically a Christian church. We're going to look like a Christian group. They look different. All these groups look different. We're going to look very American. You all, I love you. You look very American. That's just going to be the way it is. We're going to look very American. Fine, no problem. We're going to be together a lot. And then we're going to all have to take responsibility for when we need to just take a break. Or I'm full up, I can't see one more thing. Rick Steve says, you know, I just need a timeout. What did I say in my materials? Does everybody remember?
Yes.
How many meltdowns do you get on the trip? One.
One.
Everybody do the figure, right? One. Do we get 5? No, we get 1. Everybody gets 1 meltdown. I have on every pilgrimage physically removed somebody from a site when they physically hit the ground. Every single time I've done this. It might well happen. Sometimes it's physical. Oh, I forget to drink water for the last 3 days. Other times, they have a spiritual insight and they're totally overcome and they're on the ground. And I won't just say, Happy, would you see to that? No, we're not going to do that. We'll all kind of take care of it. Everybody gets one meltdown. Does everybody get a timeout?
Yes.
Yeah.
1.
Do you get more? No, you get more than 1. No. Hey, I'm staying on the bus. What's our answer?
Okay.
Great. Sure. You know what? I need a day. You go see all of that, and I'm going to take a day. Our answer?
Okay.
Great. Fine. Or, you know, I really need to talk to somebody. Great. It's all good. We're going to be good. Our pilgrimage is also centered on the life and the ministry of Jesus. We're not going to Jordan. Some people might, right? Somebody say, you going to Jordan? No? Okay, is someone going to Jordan here afterwards? Okay. Jordan's one of the most beautiful countries on the planet. We're not going to Jordan. We're not going to Sinai. It's not safe. I would not take you there now. There are places we chose not to go. What we're doing is focusing on the life and ministry of Jesus. Are we going to make a political statement?
No.
Will we be tempted to in the first 5 minutes?
Why?
Without a doubt. We'll get to that later. really aren't going. Pilgrims are not mixing it up in the political arena. Historically, that's not why pilgrims go. Everybody with me? Okay. Okay. Let me stop for a second and ask, is this helpful?
Very.
Is everybody about to fall asleep?
No.
Okay. Questions about what we've covered?
How many pilgrimages have you led? Just out of curiosity.
One, two. I've led one or two, and I've served on about 8 or 9. So, but I was much younger. Now, this thing called kids kind of take you out of circulation for like 20 years, but I was much younger, and I was not a priest that long before.
You lived there for a year, didn't you?
So I lived there, not for a full year, but I did live there. I lived there twice.
Yeah.
And we might see a few people that I know. The bishop of the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem, I stayed in his home years ago. I hope he remembers that, but yes. It's a question over here.
I'm just wondering about the rabbi that will be accompanying, and be our guide, actually, right, with you, a guide, the rabbi.
Hananiah Pinto is not a rabbi.
Oh, the Jewish fellow.
Okay, I believe he's Christian.
Oh, okay.
Welcome to the Middle East, everybody. Can you have a Jewish name and be a Christian?
Of
Sure.
course.
Can you have a Christian name and be Islamic? Sometimes.
Absolutely, sure.
I guess.
Can you be Palestinian? This is an important one, and be a Christian.
Yes.
Yes.
That is our brothers and sisters in the Middle East, Episcopalians. There are Palestinian Christians who are Episcopalian
Okay.
still, and we're going to meet some.
Oh.
I insisted on that on the trip. Some people take this trip and they never go to a site at all, and all they're doing is staying with the Christian church. I said, that's not the trip we're taking. We're going to try and give you a little bit of everything. Okay. Hananiah Pinto is a licensed guide. It's a master's level degree. Israel, the country, licenses their guides. They have Christian, Jewish, and Palestinian guides, the majority being Jewish. If you didn't know better, you wouldn't know the religion. They do a great job at not sharing that with you. They know more. Any guide you take knows more about your religion than anybody you've ever met, including me by a country mile. They are the smartest people I have ever met in my life. They know every rock. They know how long it's been there and where it came from. I'm not kidding. Their depth of knowledge is unbelievable. Hananiah trained under the greatest American archaeologist of this past generation, named James Fleming. And I am hoping that Jim will come on our trip. So Jim would kind of be Obi-Wan Kenobi in the first movie. Jim might be the most knowledgeable American archaeologist alive. There might be a few people that would jump at me at that, but
Was he, with this gentleman,
Hananiah.
was he with you the last pilgrimage? Or
Oh,
was this
no,
a new
no, I've
experience?
never taken, no.
Okay.
Let me tell you how we got to Biblical Resources. Karen and Steve Baird, their church in Denver, took 8 or 9 trips with this group. And every single time the trip filled up. And I saw their materials, I watched Steve's videos. You know, Steve would take videos. I don't know, do we have any videographers in here that are just like that? They just want to video everything. Steve took extensive videos. Anyway, and so I was introduced to Hananiah and to Jim Fleming, Dr. Fleming, through Steve and Karen. Good enough for me.
Yeah.
I've been very impressed with Hananiah and our conversations, and Jim as well, Dr. Fleming. So I am not the guide. I'm the leader. Hananiah's the guide. So.
Does Dr. Fleming live in Israel or is he?
No. Dr. Fleming lives in Georgia. They're based in LaGrange, right? Georgia. Yeah. So they're based here. Hananiah's out. How long has he been, Kathy, out?
Oh, he's home for like he's home right now. He's in
He's
Georgia
home for
right
like
now.
2
I just
weeks,
talked
3
to him,
weeks,
but
or-
then he's gone for 6 weeks. And then he's back for like a week, and then he's gone again. Well, so You can become, if you're on Facebook, you can become friends with Hananiah, which I did. Well, he friended me.
Oh.
And it's really fun, because then you'll see pictures of his trips and that he's doing, and where he's going and stuff.
They have a blog on their website, Biblical Resources. So I'm really excited. I did not get an Episcopal guide. I just wanted something a little outside of our network. Because we're going to go, I'm just telling you, we'll go to everything they want us to see, and we'll fight tooth and nail, and I didn't want to do that. So I looked at the itinerary that Biblical Resources offered. I thought about us, and I said, this is the trip. So we're eating, theologically speaking, meat and potatoes. We're not having pork reduction elk loin in terms of what we're seeing. Does everybody? I knew the majority of people had never been to Israel before, and you know it's a horrible feeling to see this great thing that you thought about your whole life recede in the distance because the guy's taking you to an archaeological dig that looks like the backyard you started with here. I didn't want to do that. So I wanted to keep it in the lane. Do you everybody understand what I mean? And so, you know, the life and ministry of Jesus is our organizing principle for this trip.
Can you give us the name of a book or two that we could read that might give us a little?
Well, gosh, really. Yeah, do we want to get into that? Do you want to go into resources? From the back? Yeah?
What?
Do you want to go into resources? Is that okay if we
That's
just
good, as
jump?
long as we just have time to just for a few important facts.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yep. Is everybody good till like close to 8 o'clock? Is that okay? Okay. I brought my books for you. The only books that are collector's items are by a man named John Wilkinson, which this I would just love it if you didn't take this one. Anyway, I want to show you. John Wilkinson was an American priest and academic, an Anglican. He wasn't American; he was British. Excuse me, an Anglican priest and academic who did some of the most pioneering work recovering Egeria's travels. This is John Wilkinson. This is John Wilkinson, and doing work on pilgrimage. He served as the dean of St. George's College in Jerusalem, which is where our study center. We're going to go see it, which is where I worked as a seminarian. Oh. And so I was exposed to this man. Anyhow, I would just love it. These 3 books are kind of steep.
Special.
So, yes. John Wilkinson has one too. If you are a deep diver, this is the mad Irish monk, Jerome Murphy O'Connor. And he wrote a book called The Holy Land, the indispensable archaeological guide for travelers. If you want a deep dive, this is your book. If you want a narrative dive, I've had one person give up on this already. James Michener, The Source. Now, honestly, you're going to learn more about what we're really going to see. This fictive town is Megiddo. We're going to go see Megiddo. It's at the bottom, it's at the foot of a little volcanic bump called Mount Tabor. Mount Tabor is where the end of the world is predicted to happen in all 3 Abrahamic faiths. It's also a mountain where something happened called the Transfiguration on the top of. We're going to go see that.
Wow.
So this whole work is actual archaeology that's recreating history. So don't wait for the movie.
You can get it in audio.
You can get audio as well.
Yeah.
Very interesting. It takes you all the way up until current time, including the War of Independence, I believe 1947, 48. The source. Let's see. My Gen X author hero, the darling of NPR about 10 years ago, Bruce Feiler. He lives in New York. He sounds like he lives in New York. He writes beautifully. And this is a guy that put true pilgrimage back on the map.
F-I-L-E-R?
F-E-I-L-E-R, Bruce Feiler.
Oh, that's true.
So what he does is he travels around with one of these guides who will blow your mind. And he has real experiences. He does the Gen X theological reflective. I wouldn't take him to seminary. But I find his writing very entertaining and informative. Okay? Any one of these books, Walking the Bible, Abraham, which talks a whole lot, I believe, about Jerusalem, and he's doing his interfaith, Abrahamic faiths, and where God was born. Now, there are places he couldn't go to today. He's Jewish, American, New York, and Jewish. There are places that he could not go today. There are places I used to go where I can't go today. But these are excellent books. If anybody's really into Minnesota, Thomas Friedman, this is kind of one of the seminal books. Of course, everybody, right, Friedman. This is Friedman back before he had scar tissue. From Beirut to Jerusalem. This was kind of required reading when I was there. And where did I know you read, The Lemon Tree? Barb, you read this.
Yeah.
And what was your, may I put you on the spot?
I think it's a great introduction, and it just gave me a thirst to read more and more and more.
Most pilgrims will come across the lemon tree at some point. Okay? You're going to get to know me in a different way than Sundays. Where is she? Did I hide her? I did. I hid her, didn't I? Karen Armstrong, where is she? Is she?
Jerusalem?
Yeah, where is it?
It's right there behind you.
Oh, here. This is a popular work. Now, I'm not the world's biggest Karen Armstrong fan, but a lot of good work in Jerusalem. So, sometimes it's the Holy Land, sometimes it's all about Jerusalem. Have you ever met somebody, again, I'm not mentioning anybody from Texas, have you ever met somebody from New York who doesn't know if there's anything outside of New York? They have a suspicion, but they're not quite sure they trust it. You know, if you cross a river, it's bad. You know, sometimes Jerusalem is like that. It's all about Jerusalem, even when Jerusalem is more poetic. Jerusalem is the center. That's where all the action is. So, some people might like Karen Armstrong's voice. The other ones, I'm going to leave. Does that help start?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are Thomas Cahill also. Let's get you a good Irishman.
Yeah.
These books I like too, Cahill.
Get
These are more recent.
What do you think about Leon Uris's Exodus?
I miss Leon Uris. I have to be honest about that. So I don't think a lot about it because I did not do a deep dive into Uris. I got lost into something else about that point. So.
Because it really does a history of the area, a very interesting, and the diaspora and.
Absolutely. You're going to find out real quickly.
Really
The book you're reading. Make real sure you know where the goal is. We're going to experience history, culture, theology. We are going to experience politics in the modern Middle East, the contemporary Middle East for sure. I mean, can't help it. I like to kind of be grounded. That's why I like Feiler. Someone like Bruce Feiler, maybe Karen Armstrong too, even though I'm not a real fan. Feiler's going to kind of mix all of that in a very creative way. But Leon Uris, sure, he enjoys a wonderful reputation. There are also more resources. Great courses
Oh, yeah.
did not exist when I went on pilgrimage, and then I had kids, and all of a sudden it popped out somewhere. Podcasting. I mean, there's some excellent online resources. Some people like to read the Jerusalem Post. If you want the voice of the state of Israel, read the Jerusalem Post. You will find out a lot of what happens that you never hear about on our major networks.
Interesting.
Does that begin to help?
Yes.
To answer, I've tried to give you a couple of different, and please, everybody take a look. And if you want to borrow, that's fine, except for Wilkinson. That's fine. I actually like this guy, who did the same thing Filer did. The Way of Herodotus. He did the same thing that Filer did. He's doing Herodotus, the great Greek historian and storyteller. But it's about how you travel. That's what I like about this book. He goes back and forth from Herodotus to current day, and he's following the footsteps of Herodotus and so forth. That's why I put this up here. Okay. The rest of this is a bit more specialized, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. I think that to start. Other questions that we can answer? Thank you. Other questions? I saw a few other hands go up. Or
I just want to share this, if you have Amazon Prime, or even YouTube, you type in the Holy Land and you'll get lots and lots of videos and documentaries, all kinds.
And they either have the British guy or that dramatic